What protects us in the past can be a limitation in the present time. Culturally and historically, power became centralized. We quietly and subtly challenge the power distance. Welcome to SEHub podcast, The Voices of Change. Today's episode is a solo reflection, and we shall be talking about why cultural legacy really matters in today's life. The cultural legacy dictates who speaks, who hears, and who obeys in the society. Additionally, we shall be talking about something called Power Distance Index, or PDI. This one quietly influences communities, leaders, and the country at large, both in Kenya and Africa. And more importantly, we shall be talking about how to honor culture and not being trapped by it. What is cultural legacy? Cultural legacy is not just what we inherit, it goes beyond our land and also our languages. Cultural legacy revolves around our ways of thinking, our ways of obeying, our ways of leading, our ways of questioning, and also the belonging that we have as a society. One thing to note is that cultural legacy is passed down through generations in various ways. Some of them include through families, through traditions, through religion, through colonial history, through education systems, and also through community leadership structures. In many African societies, including Kenya and Africa at large, cultural legacy emphasizes the following: respect for leaders, yes, and also there is that aspect of leadership structure. We really obey that leadership structure. There is also the collective identity, and also there is that aspect where authority is not easily questioned. That is our culture as African. And essentially, as we know, that these values are what keep our communities alive. They protect our identity as a community, and more importantly, they help us survive. However, you can ask yourself, where is the tension really? Also, it's worth noting that what protects us in the past can be a limitation in the present time. And that is how culture has played that role of limiting us in the present instead of protecting us the way it used to be. Then there's this other term called the Power Difference Index, PDI. What is it? The PDI essentially is how people relate to power, how different communities, individuals relate to power. So in this case, we have high power distance index or high PDI index, and also low PDI index, and anything in between. In Kenya and many other African countries, we have a high power index. An example of high power index in our African context, it holds that our leaders are not questioned easily. In addition to that, authorities are respected. And there is also that flow of authority. Decisions of flow from top to bottom. The youths and the vulnerable in the community are subject to listening, and they do not have that capacity to challenge. However, in low power index regions like the Western countries, the difference can be seen. It's like the opposite of what the high PDI countries have. And in this case, examples are leaders are questioned. In this case, they lead and also they expect to be questioned why they didn't do something. And in terms of hierarchy, it is flat as compared to the high PDI countries or high PDI society. And we have areas where, in this case, the low PDI cases, the young people, also the vulnerable in the community, they speak up, they speak their mind. If there's something wrong, they'll speak up their mind. Unlike the high power index countries or society. In this type of society, the power is negotiated. It is not inherited. You negotiate before you get to power. So In that case, you'll be subject to questioning, you'll be subject to being responsible, you'll be subject to being accountable for everything. So this is unlike what is the case in the high power index countries or societies. And we've seen that severally in many occasions in our African context and also other countries of high power index. But actually, it's worth noting that currently the Gen Z's movement, or we call it the uprising movement of youth, they are somehow waking up to the fact that there is need to question their leaders. There is need to put their leaders to account, and this somehow is bringing a balance. So there is somehow a shift into power. That is, the high power index is reducing, but in that case, it is not conclusive yet, because the problem has been systemic since time immemorial. So in this case, in the low power index, neither is good nor bad. It is negotiated. The society dictates or influences who is allowed to speak, who is allowed to lead, and also who is allowed to innovate. So let's bring it home back in Kenya and the African countries. It can be seen that in many contexts in our country, in our culture, in our communities, especially in Kenya and other parts of Africa, it can be seen that a young person who is questioning their leaders or their superiors is seen as someone who is disrespectful. And also, it's the ladies or the women who speak in public places, they can be labeled as being loud in the public. And that being loud has got some hidden meaning. So it's more of you are going against the societal rules. And in these settings, the community leaders, the society as a whole, they wait for NGOs, they wait for those people in power to make decisions as they also follow afterwards. So there's that lacking of elements of being initiative, following up. Further, they wait for politicians to act, which, as we have seen over the years, it has been very detrimental to our society. In this case, the leaders, or maybe the people who understand how the society is, they will brainwash the youths or other people or the vulnerable people, telling them that your time will come, and when it comes, you will lead. Unfortunately, that one always do not happen, and instead, they're the people who make these decisions that influences the society for a very long time. In this case, the two combined, that is the cultural legacy and power distance index, they play a lot in this context. They play a lot in our lives. Even in other contexts, including the development spaces, some of the examples of the PDI or cultural legacy include, especially when it comes to organizations, the donors decide. The NGOs or the non-governmental organizations, or maybe the CPOs, as long as you are subject to donor funding, the NGOs, they design. And in this case, the design is seen in the way you draft your proposal, you submit your proposal to the donors. On the very end, the communities implement. So from the top there, we have the donors who decide. They decide how things are being run, how things should be done, meaning they have an agenda at the end of the day. So if they have to drive an agenda, they will donate something, and then they decide how it is run. And then the NGOs, the non-governmental organization, they design how that particular agenda is supposed to be implemented. And then lastly on the chain, the communities that are involved by the NGOs or maybe any other implementers funded by the donors, they implement. The flow is that the power flows from top, trickling down to the bottom. However, there are also some times when voices also flow from the bottom going up, but rarely do they get heard, or maybe their suggestions are being incorporated. This is especially so in the high PDI societies or countries like we have in Kenya. From history, we had our cultural heritage, we have our cultural legacy. We had the PDIs, the power distance index in our case, and then the colonials came. They came to Africa and other parts of the world. They did not create the power distance in Africa or other parts of the world, but instead they deepened it, and to some extent they weaponized it. In terms of weaponizing or deepening the PDI and the cultural legacy, it's seen in the way the colonial governments or the colonial instrument used to work and the way they have institutionalized things currently. The colonial administration, they work through various systems, and these systems included positions such as the chiefs. Also, there was the indirect rule where they engage through proxies, that is, individuals who have been elevated to some powerful position who lead on behalf of the colonials. They also led through punishment and compliance. If you defied something that they had given some of instruction, you are flogged, you are punished. There was that top to down control where they sit at the top and then their leadership flows downwards to the people. And this approach trained the communities in Africa and other parts of the world, ensured that they learned something from it. It's like they were being indoctrinated in a way. And in this case, they learned to fear authorities, and that is still happening. There is that fear of authority. It was planted deep in us. It was ingrained in us. It also led to the communities depending on directives. You find that our fathers or our parents, or they depended on authorities. They wait for authorities. They wait to be ordered around. They wait for instruction to come from above before they act. And essentially, this approach led to those being colonized, or maybe our forefathers, to associate leadership and command and not accountability. So find that there is less accountability. They fear asking questions, but they obey whatever is being said. They obey whatever instruction that they are being given. And it's also interesting to note that post-independence, many regions in the colonized parts of the world, they kept this structure intact and still running the systems currently. Culturally and historically, power became centralized. And this can be seen currently in the way things operate. For example, communities wait for projects to be designed rather than them creating them. The youths, they wait for permission to lead. Local solutions struggle to gain legitimacy. So all these have affected us as a community, as a society, so much so that there is a lot of backwardness in the way we operate. Here's the hard truth. Generally, it is hard for you as a youth or another person to build an innovation in a culture where people are afraid to question. Yeah, you cannot build an innovation in a culture where people are afraid to question. Secondly, you cannot build a strong social enterprise where communities wait to be told what to do. It is something very hard to do. Thirdly, you cannot build sustainable change where power is not shared. So, in summary, we can say that high PDI, that is high power distance index, has got several effects. One of them being that high PDI kills curiosity, because you want to be in a position to question what is happening. You want to be curious to know. You want to be curious to question. You want to be curious to put someone to account. Secondly, high PDI slows innovation. That lack of curiosity will hinder you from being curious. You won't try to find new things. You won't try to design new things. So that's the effect of high PDI. Thirdly, high PDI disempowers youth. So you feel you depend on the authority in several ways, or maybe someone in power. You wait for their green light in quotes for you to act. So in this case, you will be disempowered. You don't have that initiative within you. And also, high PDI makes community or society to be passive participants. They don't engage actively in activities. But on the other side of the coin, the cultural legacy also has got its benefit. And I hinted at them when we started talking on the podcast. Some of them include the cultural legacy brings the feeling of belonging and also the feeling of being together, the solidarity part of it. Because you have one cause, there is that kind of order put in place by the cultural legacy. And also it brings some elements of respect. For example, in the high PDI countries, also in the societies, leaders are respected, elders are respected, hierarchy in the society is respected. So there is that, it's more of innate kind of respect. So when you are born, you are being taught to be respectful to anyone who is older than you. And also there is that element of collective responsibility, because those rules that the culture has shaped in the society, they become collective responsibility of the community. If someone is breaking them, you'll find that people will gang against them, and then they will be seen as outcasts in the community. So in this case, the cultural legacy brings the element of collective responsibility. It also brings that shared identity, because if it's a culture, it unites you people together, and also it helps you people to identify to that culture. It's more of a pride, for lack of a better word. So that is the positive side of the cultural legacy, and also the high PDI, that is the power distance index. However, as we have seen that there is challenge with the high PDI and also the cultural legacy. So in this case, our work, or maybe our message today, is not to erase the culture, but in this case is to evolve the culture. And in this case, this is where now SEHub, that is Safe Environment Hub, our work becomes critical and powerful as we deliver to the society, and also other like-minded organizations that share our vision and mission as well. So in this case, we go beyond planting of trees, beyond empowering communities, beyond creating social enterprise. We quietly and subtly challenge the power distance that has been in existence for long. So we do this in several ways. One of them being that we offer trainings for youths, especially for those whom we've interacted with. We offer training for them to lead in a way that they become responsible, they take responsibility in whatever they do, they be accountable in everything that they have been assigned to undertake. We also encourage the element of decision making. We teach you how to make decisions, how to act on the decisions that you've made, and how to be accountable to the decisions that you've made. We also support social enterprise as a community-based organization. As we engage the community, as we impact the community, we blend social impact with financial impact. And further, we also amplify the community voices. We treat communities as partners, not just beneficiaries to the programs that we undertake. So we don't erase the culture that is in existence, but we evolve it. We say that you don't just have to wait for change, but rather you become the change that you want. That is cultural transformation. And we have several examples of how we do this. When a young group starts PSF project, instead of waiting for donations, it's an example of power shifting. When women that we have engaged start poultry farming, instead of waiting for donations, that is a shift in power. When communities that we engage decide to co-design projects instead of waiting for handouts, it's an example of power shift. And further, when young people speak in spaces of governance, it's also an example of power shift. And certainly this is how cultural legacy evolved. It is not about rejecting leaders, but it is expanding those who get to lead and lead responsibly. The cultural legacy that we've had in all our lives should not be a cage, but it should be a foundation from which we build. We have to honor our leaders or our elders, but at the same time, we empower ourselves as youth. We have to respect leadership. At the same time, we have to demand accountability. We value traditions, but we also have to adapt to the realities of today. A lot is changing, as we see. How does true development happen? And I can say that true development happen in the following way. They happen when power is shared. That's number one. Number two, they happen when voices are respected. Number three, they happen when innovation is allowed. Number four, that is, they happen when responsibility is collective. So, in this case, to summarize the whole of this short podcast, you can say that if culture teaches us to wait, then development has to teach us how to act. If legacy teaches us to obey, the future has to teach us how to create. Our work as Safe Environment Hub sits right at the middle of the tension that we've pointed out. This is between what we inherited as culture and also the fact that we have got high PDI, that's the Power Distance Index, and of course what we are brave enough to become. And this is SEHub podcast, the voices of change. Change is not just technical, but it is cultural.